A revival of religion often happens when and where it is least expected. When churches are being closed, not only in Moscow but in London, when membership of traditional organizations shows steady decline, new light breaks out in other places. All over the world, men and women, and especially the young, are looking at new teachings where the old seem to have failed, following harder mental disciplines where laxness and weariness no longer challenge them, and seeking mystical experiences along strange paths. If the churches are emptying, the cellars are filling like the catacombs of old. This, after all, should be expected. The Bible foretells a coming like a thief in the night, and in ways that are hard to recognize. The Hindu and Buddhist writings teach that when truth and right decline, there will always appear new manifestations of true religion. Yet the Victorians would have been astonished at modern enthusiasms. Marx, if not Darwin, and Bradlaugh, if not Huxley, confidently expected the end of religion in their century. How amazed, and incredulous, they would have been if they could have seen 100 years later Godspell and Jesus Christ Superstar playing to packed houses in London and New York. And far more significant than these musical shows are the countless groups which are experimenting with doctrines and techniques undreamed of in the past. We welcome visiting gurus, learn the exercises of yoga, and read selections from many Asian scriptures in our own language. Missions at first, and immigration later, have led to the building of mosques, temples, shrines, and monasteries of the East in Europe and America. Islam has become the second largest religion of Europe, with Hinduism and Buddhism even more influential in doctrine. It is often thought that acquaintance with other religions will weaken our own. One of the chief merits of Professor Dunne's book is his evidence that the opposite can happen. Far from faith being undermined, it can be enlarged and strengthened by wider studies and by looking at our own religion from other angles. To see ourselves as others see us is salutary, but it is even better to learn of the truths that others have received, and to return with them to enrich our own spiritual life. Professor Dunne likens this to an odyssey. We pass over from one religion and way of life to another that may be very different. But then we come back enriched with new insights, not just adopting another man's outlook, but enlarging our own. The way of all the earth is the religious insight from the spiritual adventures of mankind. For the West has not been alone in seeking the truth, and the Holy Spirit has not confined his activity to the temperate zones. Of course, there are different emphases between Western and Eastern religions, and we have Westernized an Oriental faith. But the Semitic and European traditions have spoken of the majesty of God and the value of formal prayer, while the Indian and Far Eastern faiths have pondered the nature of the soul and given prominence to meditation. Now we can learn from each other, not to become like the other, but to come back to understand the depths of our own faith in new ways. All too often Eastern religious teachings have been presented with bias, for or against their religion or ours, and with inadequate knowledge. Professor Dunne is widely read and a reliable guide, and the references at the end of each chapter reveal the extent and seriousness of his study. Here is no sudden and half-baked enthusiasm, but the result of scholarly research presented in an track. With a wealth of knowledge he passes easily from Gandhi to the Gita, and from Gotama to Mohammed, arriving at meditations on the Gospels or Plato. This book is meant for the general reader, to conduct him through a spiritual odyssey and show the many illuminations that come on the way out and back. But it is also a work for theologians, and is a model of the type of theology that is needed today. For the pretense of some religious thinkers that they have no time to learn about other religions, appears more and more like a dereliction of their task as leaders of thought. Like Everest, the other religions are there, and they should not be neglected by those who claim to be concerned with the understanding of religion and its relevance to modern life. This is why Professor Dunne has been described as the only foreseeable successor to Tillich. One of that theologian's last works appeared after a visit to Japan, when he emphasized the importance of dialogue between religions, ending with a plea for a vision of the spiritual presence in other expressions of the ultimate meaning of man's existence. Professor Dunne sees God at work everywhere, though hitherto he has appeared to be a god in disguise in other faiths and their strange ways. Ranging across the continents and centuries, a vast picture is painted of what God has been doing among all mankind. Then the journey back with God is suggested, bringing not only an understanding of wider regions of faith, but a deeper spiritual experience when in the moment of passing over you see your oneness with other men and with God.